Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this session and our conversation about something which I think you really need to understand. It's a pleasure to meet everybody after a while. I hope that you can hear me, that everything is clear, visible, both, because we need to have a conversation. UPSC the marathon, you are about to have more laughs. If you think this is funny, just wait till you have hear what happens next, because soon we'll see what comes out of it. Am I audible and visible both? There are some things I need to get into. Some of it is research based, some of it is detailed, some of it is the culmination of about 4 or 5 books, and whatever has been found so far from the point of view of research. Now, here we go. Let me just get straight to it. Here is the fundamental point that I need to make here. The fundamental point about discipline is that it cannot be done from brute force. This much you already know. I have discussed about it. What does the research say? What does the science say? What exactly are the psychologists saying? Where is the crux? The crux is this. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a very simple experiment. We need to know this before we go deeper. We need to know about this before we discuss further, because it is the crux of everything that will happen. Everything that I will explain further arises from this one principle. There was an experiment which was conducted. This experiment was called the marshmallow experiment. The marshmallow experiment was a very simple experiment. The experiment was very simple. Children of this age, in fact, this is an image from the actual experiment because the experiment was videographed. Children were given marshmallow, which is basically like a sweet, something which is very tempting, and they were put into 2 groups. The researchers gave them instructions. The research basically said that if you can control yourself and not eat this one marshmallow which is in front of you, then we'll return and give you another marshmallow. They wanted to see willpower, they wanted to see self-control, and then they kept on, tracking these children. This research was done around 15 years ago. 15, 20 years ago, the research was done. I think if everybody else can hear me, then Mamta, you should also be able to hear me. And I hope this is more than enough as far as I can increase my volume. I already have. I hope that it is. Is it not? Yeah, of course. You need to use some headphones. So there, it was done. This experiment was conducted. It was very simple. The people who were able to, these children, for this one particular kid, for instance, he was one of the main case studies of this. The people who are able to control their temptation at that time, they became more successful at school, they became better at relationships, they had more success, their income levels were higher, their success at relationships were higher, their mentions in popular research was higher. Every single thing that they ended up doing later was higher because of one thing only: they were able to control. But my point is not that one should be able to control only, because that we know is half of the story. That will not get us very far. What we need to do is we need to hack into this process. We have to make this automatic. We have to make this so automatable that we don't have to worry about it, that we don't have to think about it, and it just automatically happens entirely on its own. For this, you need some very, very basic knowledge of neuroscience. Very basic knowledge of neuroscience. You need some understanding of something called dopamine. You need some understanding of something called habit loops. You need some understanding of basically rewards and punishments. And if you can combine these things with certain elements of the subconscious mind, you can have a behavior which is very solidified, very, very solid with regards to what is it that you need to do in this. Please check this out for an instance. Check this out and see if you can make any sense out of this habit loop. And let me explain to you how we are going to tap into this. Am I audible? Yes, I think I'll be more audible now. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is it. All of this stuff is easy to say, but tell me what happens when you want to teach it. What happens when you need to teach this? How do you teach a thing like this? It is easier to say, but what do you do when you have to teach it? And what you do when you have to teach it is very simple. You need to break into this neuropsychological loop. There is no other way but to hack into this loop, and this loop is hackable. This loop is highly hackable. I'm going to tell you how to hack it, and then I'm going to suggest actually a protocol for current affairs. Then we are going to maybe sign a contract, and then we'll move ahead. There are only three things. If you want to have discipline which cannot be shaken, there are only three things. एक क्यू होगा, एक रूटीन होगी, एक रिवॉर्ड होगा, और इसके लूप से we can hack behavior to a very large extent. Let me explain to you how that happens. Do you know why social media is so addictive? Why is social media so addictive? If you post something on YouTube, if you post something on Instagram, if you post anything, first of all, you're not comfortable in posting there, but when you do post, what happens? This loop happens. Notice this loop. This is the loop of addiction. This is the loop of actual hacking of something in your brain, which is called dopamine. You post something on social media. Other people will either like it or not like it. You will have anticipation. If you get a reward, you want to post again. If you do not get a reward, if people start laughing at you, if people start trolling you, don't want to do it. But most of the time you get some sort of a reward and you want to go back to it. This is the reason it is so addictive. It is also addictive. You want to see. So what are the three things which happen? Number one, this is your cue. This is your cue. Your phone, it is a physical object. It's in your hand. It's your cue. The application is your trigger. You click on the application. You click on your Facebook. You click on Instagram. It gives you an instant reward. It gives you an instant reward because you end up seeing what you want to see. You end up seeing what is enjoyable. You end up seeing what is entertaining. That gives you a reward, and every time you open your phone, every time it shows you something. Now it can catapult it and make you show advertisements, whatever it wants. The point is, it has hacked into this machine. We need to hack into this machine for our preparation. There are some things which we can do, which are very useful, very potent, that can help us do that. One of the things that we need to do is to be able to hack into this loop for current affairs. Suppose, assume करिए कि ये जो फेसबुक का और सोशल मीडिया का ये जो एडिक्शन पोटेंशियल है, अगर ये एडिक्शन पोटेंशियल, if I have the same addiction potential for suppose current affairs, suppose I have it for reading the newspaper, will I not be able to find it much easier? क्या मेरी एक्टिवेशन एनर्जी कम नहीं हो जाएगी अगर मुझे ऑटोमेटिकली रिवॉर्ड का लूप मिलने लग जाए वहां पे? दिस इज व्हाट वी नीड टू लर्न. ये रिवॉर्ड लूप्स कैसे क्रिएट करे जाते हैं? अभी ये वाला जो एडिक्शन लूप है, इट हैज बीन क्रिएटेड बाय सोशल मीडिया कंपनीज टू कीप अस हुक्ड, एंड दैट्स वेरी गुड, यू नो, फॉर देम, बट इट मे नॉट बी गुड फॉर अस. What do we need to do to make it work for us? That is what we'll discuss in detail. Some of the things, before you get into those details, I will explain. ये कुछ principles आप समझ लो, because I will suggest a protocol and it will be a detailed protocol, but I don't want you to just rely on that, because the protocol I will suggest will be for current affairs, but हमारा जो application है, it goes beyond current affairs. You should be able to create protocols for everything. You should be able to create protocols for your lifestyle. You should be able to create such addiction loops. आपको अपने इस टाइप के addiction loops बनाने पड़ेंगे for your own tracking. Depend करता है कि आप कब बनाते हो. It also varies when you need it. Maybe you are a working professional, maybe you are not. It all depends, but you'll have to figure this out. Whatever you do, remember this. Rule number 1 ये है. Rule number 1 हमेशा ये रहेगा. It will never change, and it has always been the same ever since the time humans have existed. This rule has not changed, will not change, cannot change. You need instant rewards. हम सब लोग, all of us, we are just dopamine addicts. हम सब dopamine से addicted हैं. हमको कभी कभी यार dopamine ethically justified लगता है, कभी कभी हमको dopamine ethically justified नहीं लगता है. That is the only difference. Ultimately, whether you smoke a cigarette, whether you do something which is unethical, whether you eat a chocolate, or whether you read a chapter of NCERT, आपको गोल ओरिएंटेड बिहेवियर में कुछ भी करने पे डोपामीन मिलता है. इनफैक्ट डोपामीन इज व्हाट गेट्स यू स्टार्टेड. Dopamine is what gets you started. Dopamine is the chemical that gives you that instant energy to do something. Remember this always. अगर आपके सराउंडिंग में कुछ भी है, so in my surrounding I have a water bottle. ठीक है, this is my water bottle here. If it is in my surroundings, if I want to pick it up, I will need to recruit the dopamine to pick it up. If I do not have dopamine, I don't want to do something. So this wanting, this desire to get up and do something, this desire to open a book, this desire to sign my name, this desire to read something, this desire is dopamine. That is dopamine. Understand this. This is not a commonly understood principle. There is a chemical which is experienced as desire. There is no difference between your willpower and that dopamine thing. It is the same thing. The problem arises because हमको वो दिखता नहीं है. Because we can't see it, हमको लगता है that we are the ones doing it, but we are actually not doing anything. We are being driven by these molecules most of the time. 90% of the time. In fact, this 90% of the time is not a hyperbole. 90% of your decisions are not conscious. They are not conscious. They are driven by what is happening inside this thing, and they are driven by chemicals. In fact, 90% of your decisions are actually habits. आपके 90% decisions already habit patterns में ingrained है. आपके पास कोई choice नहीं है. आपको लगता है, you think you'll get up in the morning and you'll change your behavior. It is not going to happen. You are in control of the patterns already embedded in the mind. You need to be able to learn to hack those, to change those, and there is a way to do it. We'll talk about that. सबसे पहली बात, जो भी हम कर रहे हैं, whatever we want to do, we need to make sure it is immediately rewarded. Immediate reward होना चाहिए. We are no better than chimpanzees. You know, recently we adopted a puppy. We adopted a dog. Very cute little puppy. But that cute little puppy, he is a monster because he wants all his desires to be fulfilled. उसको सारी की सारी desire उसके उस टाइम पर चाहिए, और उसको ट्रेन करने के लिए I've seen how the trainer behaves. Now dog behaviorists, they work on very solid principles of behaviorism. Reward, punishment, reward, punishment. Reward, punishment, reward, punishment. If you do it properly, you can get the dog to do anything. कुछ भी. The dog can learn to shake hands, the dog can learn to walk on one leg, the dog can learn how to behave, everything it can do. You understand what I'm saying? Now, cardinal rule number 1 clear हो गया हमको. Reward immediate होना चाहिए. What is the opposite of this rule? स्नेहा, प्रतीक, इस रूल का ऑपोजिट क्या है? इस रूल का ऑपोजिट ऑब्वियसली एप्लीकेशन ये है, प्राइमरी एप्लीकेशन आई वुड से, इफ यू वांट टू ब्रेक अ बैड हैबिट, you punish immediately. There has to be a negative reinforcement. There has to be a form of punishment which is instantaneous. Okay? The problem is we don't normally give ourselves that punishment instantaneously. Nobody has the willpower to do that. But अच्छी चीजें करने का willpower हमारे पास होता है. We leverage that. Rule number 2. कोई भी behavior, whatever behavior we are trying to instill, it cannot take more than 2 minutes. It cannot take more than 2 minutes. 2 मिनट 120 सेकंड का बिहेवियर है. 120 सेकंड से ज्यादा का बिहेवियर नहीं हो सकता है. It will not work for the long term. The behavior is basically just a trigger. Okay? It is just a trigger. It can be as simple. It can be as simple as opening your notebook and writing down a headline of whatever you want to do. उससे ज्यादा कुछ नहीं. Nothing more. I'll give you an example of how we will leverage this for current affairs in very precise protocols. But before I get into the protocol, I have to make sure ये principles आपको समझ में आए, so that you can use it other places, and you have also faith in that idea. आपको पता होना चाहिए क्यों है. What is the logic behind it? 2-minute rule is important. If you are trying to do anything, you need to be able to do that behavior in 2 minutes and move forward. If it continues, it doesn't continue, we will see later. But filhal, this is what we need to do. There, temptation bundling. This is something you need to figure out. This is something new. This is something important for you to know. Temptation bundling always works if you combine. अगर आप intelligently एक behavior जो आपको करना पसंद है और एक behavior जो आपको बिल्कुल भी करना पसंद नहीं है, if you can combine it, it works. It hacks into our dopamine systems and it can get us things which we don't normally we do. It will get it for us. I will also suggest to you a few things which work very well to increase dopamine levels. One of those things, interestingly, research is suggesting one of those things that actually increases dopamine levels is chocolate. Dark chocolate apparently will lead to a 150% increase in dopamine for a while. 1-1.5 घंटे के लिए एक effect होता है उसका. Cold showers will do it, exercise will do it, but हम चाहते हैं कि जो भी रिवॉर्ड हमारा सिस्टम हो, हम टेम्पटेशन बंडलिंग अभी करेंगे. Whichever way we decide to do temptation bundling, it has to be rich for us. It has to be rich. It cannot be a weak stimulus. Reward वाली फीलिंग आनी चाहिए, अंदर से एक प्लेजर वाली फीलिंग आनी चाहिए. It has to be a feeling that gives you a sense that that you've done something which you really wanted to do. आपको ऐसा लगना चाहिए कि आपके लिए कुछ ट्रीट सा हुआ है. You need to feel treated. Understand that. अगर रिवॉर्ड उतना अच्छा नहीं है कि आपको वो वाली फीलिंग आ रही है, तो इट प्रोबेबली विल नॉट वर्क, विच बेसिकली सिंपली मीन्स कि उतना डोपामिन नहीं हुआ है जितना होना चाहिए था. इट इज नॉट गेटिंग अस टू दैट लेवल ऑफ डोपामिन, देयरफॉर इट इज नॉट डूइंग व्हाट वी नीड टू डू. आई टेल यू, आई विल एक्सप्लेन टू यू. नाउ लेट मी टेक यू इनटू अ कॉन्क्रीट एग्जांपल. एक कॉन्क्रीट एग्जांपल में चलते हैं. लेट अस टॉक अबाउट आवर डे. Let us talk about current affairs. Current affairs पे आते हैं. Let us see how we'll apply these principles in current affairs. Is it possible? क्या ये possible है? Current affairs में tell me what is your trigger. आपका trigger क्या है current affairs का? आप सुबह what happens to you when you wake up in the morning? Ideally you want to do something and you have a plan. Most of the time you create your plan later. हाँ, that is a good thing. सुरभि के पास study partner है, बहुत अच्छी बात है. You have inculcated this too much effort. I know what you mean by this. It takes too much effort and consumes too much time, but there is a way to hack it. There is a way to hack it. I will be sending you an email with the resources and the protocol. Here is the protocol and listen carefully. What is your cue? Your cue is the newspaper itself in the morning. Your cue is that the newspaper gets delivered to you. Up the newspaper comes. The newspaper has come and now it is staring at you, and every day you will find it and you will look at it, and it always gives you that feeling that it is just there to be done and wo hua nahi hai, because it is so much of work. The newspaper becomes your trigger. What is your routine? Let me take you back to this. I had said एक क्यू होगा, एक रूटीन होगी और एक रिवॉर्ड होगा. करंट अफेयर्स के केस में, न्यूज़पेपर के केस में हमारा क्यू है दैट द न्यूज़पेपर कम्स. I will give you one more cue. I will give you this current affair diary format and we will use it in this. So you can read current affair at night. आप कभी भी you can plug this mechanism anywhere, but a general protocol I will suggest. The thing about the queue is that queue हमारे पे dependent नहीं होना चाहिए. The newspaper just comes. Newspaper comes, is delivered. You reach it. It reaches you, right? That is your trigger. Now, in the morning, you are deprived of dopamine, but you have relatively high energy. My suggestion is use the routine of breakfast to hack into this machine. You got the cue for the routine. Do not eat breakfast for a while. Do not eat breakfast for a while. Get exposed to the newspaper and make sure one way or another you take this format. You take this, I'll send it to you. इसका print out आप निकाल सकते हो. You can just take a print out of this. Your 2-minute behavior is just to write the date. आपको सिर्फ और सिर्फ date लिखनी है इस पे. That is it. That is my challenge and that is what will trigger it. I don't know how much of it you can see, but if you are able to see anything, you will see that on top of it there is a section for date. Right? I hope that you can see that. If you can't see it, I will zoom it for you. I'll share my screen and I'll zoom it for you so that you can see. One moment. This I will give you. You just need to take printouts of this and maybe you can start to use it. If you zoom in, you are going to find that there is a date here. Bas, our 2-minute behavior is you write the date and the time, nothing else. इससे ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं मैं कह रहा हूँ. Now I am not going to suggest anything else also. That's it, just that. Just the date and time, nothing more. You can't see it. The date and time is right here. Right here, date and time, nothing more. You just write that. Now, you give yourself a cup of coffee or you give yourself some stimulus, but not too much. You do not have breakfast. You first fill out this current affair format and you take some time with it. You take some time to fill up this current affair format. I'll explain to you how it works. Very simple. You select 10 topics. You immediately fill in the blanks type format and you get it over with. As soon as it is over, you treat yourself to a very good breakfast. You don't eat a normal breakfast. You invest in your breakfast and you eat a very, very good one. Now the thing with breakfast is that it is one meal. वो एक ऐसा मील है जिसमें हम थोड़ी चीटिंग कर सकते हैं. We can do some cheating and we can have really delicious stuff. वो possible होता है. You can have sugary stuff in breakfast. That sugary stuff can be had and should be had perhaps only in the mornings. So you have that advantage. If you are able to do this, you have set up a loop. I will give you a challenge and in that challenge you will have some days to do it. You will have 5 days, 5 दिन की streak करनी होगी. So, was I able to complete this loop? सबसे पहले I gave you a cue. The newspaper came to you. The current affair diary is in front of you or the current affair notice. I will give it to you on email. Sonali, you can just take a printout. उसके printouts आप निकाल लेना and just give your photocopy guy. Maybe he can print it front and back. It's going to be very cheap. Not a lot of expenditure is involved. You get your cue, which is the newspaper. You have your trigger, which is that you took a 2-minute action. In that 2-minute action, you just wrote your and you delayed your breakfast. You delayed it. You delayed your breakfast just like this kid over here. Just like he did not eat the marshmallow and he took his time and he fought this temptation. He is fighting this temptation because he is hungry and he wants to eat it. But it's not as if he's completely, depleted. He can hold out for half an hour. The thing is, this is not a format that will take too much time. I don't want you to spend too much time. It is not required that we spend 30-40 minutes. ये 20-25 मिनट में करने वाला काम है. We do it, we get it over with. ये जो current affairs वाला काम है, we need to get it over with. It is not something we dwell on. It is not something we linger on with. It is something we get it over with. To do that, you need something waiting on the other side. Well, what exactly will happen after you get it over? After you fill this, what is waiting for you? Where is your dopamine? Where is your reward? If there is no reward, then you will not do it. This is how you integrate it into your routine. I included only 3 things. बहुत simple सा है, सुनने में बहुत simple लग रहा है, but when you do it, you will realize that it will just hold you. It's like a checkmate situation. अगर आप involve हो गए तो फिर you cannot stop. You will wake up in the morning. You will find the newspaper waiting. You will find that there is this page waiting. You will write your name. If you write your name, you are done. You are hooked. That addiction loop is activated. Humans are so easy to fool sometimes. But the only thing is we don't fool ourselves enough. If you give yourself a task and you don't complete it, your mind will torture you until it is done. That's called cognitive dissonance. And that is something also that we can leverage here. So you've got your cue, you've got the stimulus, you've got the format, and you've got 25 minutes to finish it, have your breakfast and get on with your day. This entire routine is no more than 35 minutes long, 35 to 40. You wake up, you engage your mind just enough to active, इतना ही बस कि active हो जाए. You follow this routine, you get it over with, then you treat yourself to an excellent breakfast and then you move on with your day. This is one way that we were able to use all 3 elements into it. Like I mentioned, it does not work if any of these is missing. अगर इसमें एक भी element missing है तो ये काम नहीं करेगा. क्या क्या करना चाहते थे हम? We wanted to delay gratification. We did that. हमने breakfast को delay करा. Breakfast हमारे लिए एक बहुत अच्छा meal बनने वाला है. We are going to do that. We used this feedback loop. We hacked into our addiction potential. We immediately rewarded ourselves because we were already waiting for it. क्योंकि हमने कुछ तो planning कर रखी थी for our breakfast and something that has to be very, very delicious, which is easy to do for a thing like breakfast. We used the 2-minute rule. We did not do anything extra. हमारा सिर्फ इतना ही था. the task is complete. अगर उस पे नाम, if you write your name and your date, the task is complete from my point of view. मेरी तरफ से हो गया, हैबिट बनने के लिए लायक काम हो गया. Then we can move on. हमने टेम्पटेशन बंडलिंग करी. हमने कैसे करी? वी जस्ट कंबाइंड इट विद ब्रेकफास्ट एंड वी मेड श्योर कि तब तक नहीं करते तब तक वी आर नॉट ईटिंग. वी आर नॉट ईटिंग टू मच. We have our cues, we have this saying, this is done, this is how we do it. This is one particular protocol that works. Now, there are other things that work. One of those things is that you need to make a commitment. And for that, I have drafted for you a discipline contract. And I will throw you a challenge. I will throw you a challenge. The challenge is very simple. The challenge is that you need to make this commitment public. There will be somebody on the other side, and that somebody will be me. I am ready to enter into the contract if you are willing to engage in it. I will enter into this contract for 7 days. I will enter into this contract for 7 days. This is what I'll read it out for you. Even if this is not super clear, that's fine, because I'll read out to you what the content says. The content says that this contract is a solemn agreement between Ravi Kapoor IAS and you, a determined individual. It is born from a mutual respect for the rigorous demands of the UPSC exam and a shared belief in the transformative power of discipline, dedication, and mutual accountability. The purpose is to solidify a framework. Then you sign it. What I need from you is dedication, transparency, resilience. That is fine. Then you basically sign this contract and you send it to me. Why am I doing this? Why do I do this? Why this theatrical stuff? मतलब why the superficial stuff? क्या होगा इससे? ये legally enforceable तो है नहीं. It is not a legally enforceable thing. But you see, if I trigger your actual desire circuits, if I actually trigger your social circuits, आपको नहीं पता कि कितने लोग देखेंगे ये. You don't know how many people will see it. You know at least one person is going to see it. That one person is sitting there. तो email तो देख ही सकता है ना वो. Somebody can just scroll through the phone, they look at their email. I am already addicted to my email, by the way. I used this particular protocol itself. I have used in order to be hooked onto my email. Ab, for better or worse, I am addicted to it. Sara time, all of my I have 3 or 4 email addresses. All of them are already hooked. I keep on seeing. जैसे ही कुछ होता है, somebody is having a problem और जो कुछ भी है, I constantly take a screenshot and I send it to the relevant person. बोला immediately इनको जवाब दो या इनकी help करो. I'm always triggered. And if I can, I'll quickly type it on my phone and I'll send it. You are doing the same thing, more or less the same thing, but you are committing yourself now. Now, this is what brings me to my first point. There is something called extreme ownership. What I just told you is cognitive science, neuroscientific stuff. ठीक है, that's great and बहुत अच्छी बात है. वो अपनी जगह it has its own merit. काम की चीजें हैं, psychological हैं, logical हैं. But there is another side to it that is complete mindset. And you know who uses this complete mindset of extreme ownership? This type of a mindset is used by soldiers. Soldiers use करते हैं, athletes use करते हैं. This is something that is taught to them. This is something that is taught to them gradually, systematically, until they can take complete ownership of a situation. In your case, you are in a situation like that. You are in a situation there where you need to take extreme ownership. Extreme ownership मतलब कुछ भी हो जाए, it is up to me to figure out what to do. Nobody is going to come for my rescue. I have to figure out things on my own, and therefore it entirely befalls up to me whether it is my failure or it is my success. And that mindset we need to inculcate. Without that mindset, we won't get far. This mindset, if you are able to inculcate even to some extent, it will help you. Now, this again is all easy. It's said and done, very nice. Again, sounds great, but there is a problem. And this is a problem that I should warn you about before you embark on this challenge, before you sign the contract and everything. And the problem is that, you see, once you develop a routine will become boring. Habits become routines become boring. When they become boring, the dopamine release does not happen as fast as it should. It doesn't happen as spontaneously or as strongly as it should. That is not a good sign. That is a problem. You will have to constantly reinvent this a little bit. You will have to use some imagination, some effort in keeping this loop going. Once you start, you will not be able to stop for the most part, but there will be a break. If there is a break, you need to be able to get back on it, but you need to make sure there is not a break for more than 3 days. If there is a break for more than 3 days, momentum is actually broken. Your chemical momentum is broken, and you need to then get back on track with the whole process again. Let us not do that. Let us get back to it ASAP, and let us figure out a really, really good way to do what you need to do. You understand what I'm saying? Now for your challenge. The challenge is simple. The challenge is that you sign the discipline contract, which I will be sending. I will send it. You sign it. You will have to take a printout actually, and you physically sign it and you send it to me. It is very much like the oath of commitment, but अब बहुत specific contract कर रहे हैं हम. We are talking about a 7-day streak. We are talking about a particular streak that will end. 7 दिन के बाद ये खत्म हो जाएगा. Then we may have to renew it. या देख लेंगे हमको कैसे करना है. But it is up to you and me to decide कि इस पे क्या action लेंगे हम लोग. Then you create your protocol. If you want to use this current affairs protocol, completely fine. आपकी मर्जी है. It is up to you. No problem. If you want to use some other protocol, you can do that. If you want to use this one, that also you can do, no problem. And then you complete your 5-day streak. In fact, I would say 7-day streak कर लेते हैं. 7-day streak would be actually better, because then it makes things even more interesting. This is what you do. My challenge to you is this. If in this month, if you are able to actually do this 7 days in a row, then there is no reason that you cannot figure out a way to do your history or your geography or your economy, whether that's your NCRT or your Bipin Chandra. This loop has to be triggered. You need to have certain awards, certain rewards. What type of rewards are there that you can leverage? एक बहुत simple reward हमारे को जो technology ने दिया है, that is Zomato. Zomato से order कर लो आप कुछ. I suggest this to my students जब वो करते हैं मेंस लिखते हैं, they become depleted, उनकी विल पावर खत्म हो जाती है. You order something from Zomato if you can. नहीं तो you give yourself a reward which is sufficient, but it is not overwhelming. It is not, filled with too much, because it can't make you do that. And so you need to structure a routine in which this is happening constantly. दिन में तीन बारी there has to be a loop which is triggered. We are talking about 3 rewards a day. We are talking about 3 different types of rewards a day. One of those rewards can be a meal. The other reward can be a conversation, a really, really good conversation with somebody that you really, really like, somebody you are really friends with, and somebody that you are completely comfortable with. A third one can be a small outing. There are 3 types of fundamental rewards we can use: food, social, other people, and an outing outside. Something, again, तीनों में you will have to make sure कि आपको अच्छा लगना चाहिए. अगर आपको, if you don't find it too enjoyable, तो फिर it will not work. So that is what I wanted to say, ladies and gentlemen. Is that making sense to you? I hope it is. This is the crux of it. This is the challenge. This is how habits work. This is how incorruptible discipline is built. Incorruptible discipline is not built. It is not built because of infinite willpower. Does not happen, will not happen, cannot happen. Incorruptible discipline is and always will be built upon you hacking your own addictions. There is nothing more incorruptible than an addiction. But if you are addicted to the right stuff, if you are addicted to the right behavior, then there is no stopping you either. This is it. That's it. That's the whole message of the whole session. This is the protocol. These are the triggers. Those are the principles. That is the challenge. I will send you the details on email. You can get started from tomorrow. कल से हम स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं. कल से 7 दिन ले लेते हैं. And that is all there is to it. खत्म बात. I should tell you that I have basically given you the summary of roughly 4 books. Atomic Habits by James Clear. इसकी पूरी की पूरी summary इस protocol में है already. I have given you also The Power of Habits by Charles Duhigg. I have given you the summary of You Can't Stop Me by David Goggins, which is where the idea of extreme ownership comes from. And I have given you the crux of the cognitive science research on motivation, on success, on delaying gratification, on procrastination. This is all there is to it. आप अगर self help books पढ़ोगे, if you read psychological literature also, ultimately यही निकलेगा, यही निकला है अभी तक सारी कॉग्निटिव साइंस की रिसर्च से इन टॉपिक्स पे. अब दिस इज हाउ वी कैन इंटीग्रेट इनटू यूपीएससी प्रिपरेशन. व्हाट हैपेंस नेक्स्ट आई विल शो यू एंड आई विल शेयर विद यू एंड आई विल कीप कमिंग लाइव मोर ऑफ. दैट्स ऑल देयर इज टू इट. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope this was useful to you. I hope that you actually got something out of it. And now actually the real work will begin, because now we'll have to execute. Execution will start. I will send you all these because sort of I have to send you the email in which you will find the discipline contract. You will find, I actually even send you a link to some of these TED Talks. बहुत शॉर्ट में टेड टॉक्स हैं. आप यू कैन रिविजिट द प्रिंसिपल्स. आई विल सेंड यू द डेली फीडर पेज एंड आई विल सेंड यू द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ऑल्सो. सो विद द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एंड द डेली फीडर पेज हमारा काम खत्म हो जाएगा. वी आर सॉर्टेड. वी कैन गेट स्टार्टेड. आपको प्रोटोकॉल खुद बनानी होगी. आपकी रिवॉर्ड प्रोटोकॉल मैं नहीं बना सकता. इट इज़ नॉट पॉसिबल और वो मुझे बनानी भी नहीं चाहिए. इट इज़ कस्टमाइज. इट हैज़ टू बी कस्टमाइज. हाँ, एक ज़रूर चीज़ है. आई वुड लाइक टू नो आपने रिवॉर्ड प्रोटोकॉल क्या यूज करा है. वॉट टाइप ऑफ रिवॉर्ड प्रोटोकॉल्स आर यू यूजिंग फॉर योर सेल्फ. दैट इज समथिंग यू कैन टेल मी एंड वो सीक्रेट ही रहेगा. आप मेरी सजेशन आप जान गए हैं. नाउ यू कैन यूज इट एंड यू कैन एक्सक्यूट इट एंड आई विल टॉक मोर अबाउट दिस कमिंग. व्हाट्स गोइंग टू हैपन्स नेक्स्ट what's coming in the next few weeks and month. I want to talk about cognitive efficiency. You know, I've been meeting some students and I am a little bit worried because all I'm hearing about is they don't know how to make notes. Notes kaise banaye? You can't make notes. I want to talk about cognitive efficiency. Efficiency is spelled wrong. It's spelled wrong. Yes. This is something we need to figure out. I will be doing some sessions on particular topics like this. I'm talking about memory enhancement. I'm talking about actually categorization in the mind of the content. I'm talking about absorbing content, history ka content, geography ka content. I'm talking about how it is consumed. I want to talk about how it is that you are putting it down on paper. Why are you putting it down on paper? What is the reason for your note taking? What is the logic behind it? What type of notes should there be? I will break it down into a challenge and I will send that to you also. So that's what's coming. But for now, this is what you are doing. Thank you very much and I will see you soon. I hope it was useful and I look forward to meeting you again. Thank you very much and good night.